Hello, how are you today? My name is Lisa R. Gray, and I am a mother, I'm an author, a writer, I'm a minister, and a counselor. I want to talk to you today on the topic of CSA, child sexual abuse. We want to bring some information to that subject. We want to enlighten people, we want to encourage you, and we want to educate you regarding the topic of CSA. Because as a mother, I found out that my daughter had been sexually abused by her stepfather. I didn't know it at the time. And once I discovered it, I was devastated. It was very difficult to find out that my daughter had been sexually abused in her home, which was supposed to be her safe place. It was not. She was in the third grade when I married this man. I divorced him when she was in the 10th grade, and that is when she felt free enough to finally tell her best friend what had been taking place in our home all that time. You see, even though I was aware that there were some issues with this man, and it became very apparent as we went on in the marriage, he had been highly deceptive. You see, he was a minister of music at our church. He was a musician. He had been a football coach in our community, and he had been an all around quote unquote good guy. So, how long had this been going on? Do you really think that my daughter was the first person this man molested? I think not. In fact, we've had some other people who have come to us and told us that they had been molested by this man as well. In fact, when I'm about my day, when I'm shopping, I'm in the grocery store, people approach me on a regular basis and tell me about different things that they knew about this gentleman. Did anyone approach me at the time that I was about to marry this man? No. And because the silence continues, because CSA is something that just perpetuates in silence, perpetuates in secrecy. That's why we're talking about it. And we do not want you to go through what we went through. It was devastating for my daughter, very difficult for myself, for our family. So, because we were able to come through that with the help of our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ, we want to talk to you about it. We want it to be something that's not hush hush. We don't want it to be in secrecy. You see, CSA is all about betrayal and about access. Who has access to your child? Who has access? Who's in the inner circle? 90% of the time, we're talking about family members. We're talking about close friends. It can be a father, it can be a stepfather, an uncle, a brother. It even happens, yes, it happens inside the family. That's why it's so difficult to talk about. That's why it's so difficult to fathom. But it happens on a regular basis, and we are going to have to make a decision that we're not going to allow it to happen. We will not let our children be prey. We're going to have to talk to our young children about this because so often they're groomed. The grooming process is hideous. First, they get your trust. They get the trust of the parents, of those who are close. It's babysitters. It's our teachers. It's our ministers. And it just becomes unfathomable that those whom you trust with that which is most precious to you, our children, are betrayed. So often our children are ashamed. They're led to feel guilty about something they had no control of. They had they didn't even have the tools to say no. And that's why we want to talk about it. That's why we need to get this into our daily vernacular. We're going to have to talk about it in every situation, every circumstance. We're going to have to let our children know that it's okay for them to talk to us about anything. Anyone that's touched them, anyone that makes them feel uncomfortable. Let's talk about the grooming process for a minute. Sometimes you might just get touched in, or maybe wrestling and just tomfoolery. We're just out there to have fun. But it gives that perpetrator a time to touch our children, and maybe they touch them inadvertently, or so the child is thinking, when all along they're grooming them for the kill. They're setting them up. That was what my daughter experienced. Oh, we're just having fun. We're just having fun. We're just wrestling. No, they're not. They're getting ready. They're grooming your child. They groomed my child for the kill so that it's not so uncomfortable. Let's talk about pornography. Is your child being shown pornography so that they'll feel comfortable? so that it doesn't seem like it's something out of the way. That perversion is becoming regular in our homes, it's becoming regular on our phones, on the internet, our computers, on television. Perversion of all kinds is being perpetuated, and so that it gets into our psyche, and it's no longer called pornography. Did you know that? Now it's adult entertainment. It's just entertainment. It's just adult entertainment. But yet and still it becomes a part of our regular daily lives. So let's get back to the topic of child sexual abuse. How does someone go about telling that? So often it's not told, especially when someone's young, but yet and still it has left an effect. How does an adult tell? What I'm finding, and especially with the people that have talked with me and have disclosed their abuse with me, their concern is how other people will respond. And I say to you that other people may not respond appropriately. They have limitations. But their limitations, their difficulties, how difficult it may be for them should not be a reason for you to not be free. Yes, people do have limitations. Yes, it's going to be difficult for family members, for friends to hear that you were abused. Make no mistake about it, it will be difficult for them. That has nothing to do with you stopping, with you telling your story. Their limitations, their emotions, their feelings should not and cannot stop you from getting the freedom that you deserve to have. Other people it'll take them a minute to think about it. They may not respond appropriately. They may be quiet. They may need to gather their thoughts, how they feel about it. Remember that this becomes new information for them, so they may need time to process. That is their limitation. People do have limitations. That cannot stop you from gaining the freedom that you need, from taking the step that you need to get your freedom. So often people are bound up in their own chains. They put themselves in prison because they've made a vow not to tell. And because you've done that, other people will end up in the same prison. Because we know that molesters do not stop at one person, but they continue. And when we're talking about family secrets, it continues generation after generation after generation. Sometimes we're going to have to take a step. Sometimes we're going to have to do the difficult work, but don't you deserve it? Don't you deserve your freedom? Don't you deserve to be free of the secret of it being in a dark place no one knows, and yet the perpetuator goes on and on, goes to the next victim? Yes, it can be difficult for our mother and our father to hear that we've been molested, for our brother. And so often the sexual abuse victims will look in their eyes to see what they're saying. Well, give them a minute, give them time, give them space. That's okay. But you deserve to have some freedom. So I want you to know that other people's responses, how they respond to it, that's not your burden to bear. It can't be. You've held it for so long. You've not told anyone for so long. Your perpetuator may even be dead, and you're still walking around in prison because you haven't let yourself out. Well, you have the keys. You have the ability to set your own self free. You can make a step in the right direction. Be free of the burden. Be free of the guilt. Be free of the shame. Hold your head up high because you have nothing to be ashamed of. You didn't invite someone to molest you. You didn't invite someone to touch you. You are not the guilty party. Yet you've walked around with it. So I say to you, be free. Be free of the guilt. Be free of the shame. Other people's limitations are not your burden to bear. Be free. Make the decision to set yourself free. And I say to you, I did write a book. I want you to know that I wrote about it, my own journey. It's called They Don't Tell, Child Abuse from a Mother's Perspective. It was very difficult to hear that my daughter had been abused. Very difficult. But I'm saying to you that because she did finally let me know, she's walking in freedom now. Because she did say it. And because we went through the work, because it's work, I'm free. Our family is free. But that was only because we didn't walk around in silence and shame. We didn't let anyone else put any shame on us. We did not respond to other people's feelings. They had to deal with it the best they knew how. We made the decision that we wanted to walk in freedom and we wanted to be open about it. We weren't going to walk around with any family secrets and pretend that it didn't happen. It happened. And because it happened, other people are walking free. Even when we went to trial, and he's in prison right now for 15 to 40 years. When we went to trial, do you know that other people said to my daughter, said to me, we got him, we got him, we got him. That's how they felt. That because this perpetrator finally had to give an account for what he had did, they felt freedom for what he had did to them. So I'm saying to you, you can get some freedom. Yes, you can, and you deserve it. But the only way that's going to happen is for you to no longer walk around with your head held down, no longer walk around with the guilt and shame of something that happened to you. Something that happened to you. You cannot be responsible for other people's reactions. You cannot be responsible for other people's actions, but you can set yourself free. Don't be bound by other people's limitations because you're concerned how they're going to respond and how they're going to act. They have the right to be free, but again, if you're walking around with a secret that you're not going to tell anybody, nobody needs to know, and that was in the past, so we're going to leave the past in the past. Yes, I understand that. It is important for the past to be in the past. My daughter's not walking around every day talking about I was abused, I was abused. No. However, she did the work. She's gained her freedom. I want you to gain yours. You can reach me through the Facebook page, They Don't Tell. You can reach me on the website, lisargray.com. I want you to know that there is freedom in walking around with your head held high because you are not responsible for what someone did to you. So many people I've talked to are walking around with guilt and shame and hurt. They're carrying it around. I don't want that to be you. And that's why we're here. We're here to encourage, we're here to educate, and we're here to inform you about the scourge on the earth of CSA, child sexual abuse. Thank you, and you go ahead and get your freedom because you deserve to be free.